leaders, who you are is your culture. And that's felt on a neurological level.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter what's on the wall. Doesn't matter what you say. Doesn't matter how many gimmicks or toys or those things that you provide.
Pizza. You buy pizza once a month because we hit sales goals, right? I mean, that's like, it just doesn't work.
So you can do it in a meeting. So I meditate. I've been doing it for years.
I don't have to stop in the middle of the meeting.
You don't.
You don't. I don't have to do that.
You don't. Although you could, right?
Yeah.
Finding ways that.
Can I just say no more email? Can I just tell my people that
you did
tell
me that.
My email? No, like totally just shut it off. Never again.
Yeah.
I don't want to ever see it ever again. Just delete it. All right, we're back. This is part 2 of Kathleen Gramsci, where last week Sam and Tracy Ann interviewed her directly. In this instance, I sat down with her after their interview and continued the conversation about resiliency and why it's important. You may hear some redundancy in here because we recorded these in separate, same studio space, but we were I was not on site hearing the first interview. So I think it'll just be interesting to see the different takes we get here with Kathleen.
You ready? Let's go. Welcome to the process fix to help you see the bigger picture. Derek Maines is the elixir, cutting waste away like scissor. Woo! Got a problem, he can solve it. He's an expert with the process, so for sure you'll see a profit. Bottom line profit. Analyze the work your people doing every day. Expose the inefficiencies getting in the way. Advise you how to automate, outsource, abbreviate, eliminate, innovate. Now there's more food up on your dinner plate.
Hi.
Hi.
Well, let's talk about resilience.
Okay, great topic.
That's something that we talk about frequently. And it's good that like our paths crossed after a long time.
Right.
I feel like there was some, connectivity there. I think it was a secret sauce event.
It was?
And I think I was like leaving and you were, you were leaving, I leave. And then we just sort of like saw each other and we're like, hey, we know each other.
Right. Well, what was funny was we hadn't seen each other for so long.
Yeah.
And you were standing outside and I left and I just had this hit, like, come back and talk to him. Like, we've never actually really talked to find out what we each do, which was funny. And was the whole start of this.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. Well, I'm so glad that we did. And I'd love to learn more. I know some of my team members have talked to you and I know I've heard a lot about your work and you and I've talked a little bit about it, but what is resiliency and why the heck does it matter?
Why do we care?
Yeah.
Resilience is the ability, I would just say, to live life every day and still be joyful about it, still be healthy, still like each other, get along with people. That's what resilience really is, right? It's the ability to handle life and still want to be here, still want to, follow your goals or grow your relationships or care about really wanting to move forward in life. And that's the non-official version.
So when you talk about that in relationship to, let's say, business, I mean, how does resiliency work when it comes to employees? Like, is that a thing?
Well, I would tell you that it is the smartest business strategy there is today. And the reason I say that is because my background clinically, I look at, it's holistic, right? So I look at the whole and I go to the root cause problem.
Yeah.
So there is no more root cause problem than us being humans with a nervous system that gets triggered and puts us into survival mode. And when we act and operate out of our survival and threat, rather than our great creativity and get along with each other and stay healthy side.
Yeah.
So really, in a nutshell, resilience really is the one thing to focus on because it solves all of the problems organically and actually increases people's capacity to be creative, to get along with each other, to lead better, and to stay healthy doing it. And to then be able to then do all the cool stuff that organizations want to do.
So improving resiliency with employees is about a couple of things, right? It's obviously going to improve their experience. It's going to improve the capacity of folks inside the organization. So I don't want to say that you get more work done, but you can do higher quality work inside the company. And I got to think that it improves the experience for the customer as well.
It improves it for everybody.
Yeah.
Because, we just think about this. When you're not stressed or when you have a challenge and you can just reset yourself and you can stop your mind chatter or you can stop that fuel ignited, like now you're getting really mad. If you can literally in 90 seconds release that and clear it now and go back to that restorative creative side, it allows you to be able to adapt to whatever the circumstances are much better.
Yeah.
And so that's good for the employees because now they're going to have more fun and enjoy more what they're doing. And it's particularly important for leadership down is how I look at it, because leaders, who you are is your culture. And that's felt on a neurological level.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter what's on the wall. Doesn't matter what you say. Doesn't matter how many gimmicks or toys or those things that you provide.
Pizza. You buy pizza once a month because we hit sales goals, right? I mean, that's like, it just doesn't work. Okay, so is that different than like mindfulness and meditation, or is it all part of the same concept?
So meditation and mindfulness are practices that help switch your nervous system back to, right? So that actually supports you to get back into that restorative side. Okay. Mindful resilience, the programs that I do are specific neurological techniques that change the physiology. So you can do it in a meeting. So I meditate. I've been doing it for years. I
don't have to stop in the middle of the meeting.
You don't. You don't.
I don't have to do that.
You don't. Although you could, right?
Yeah.
But that's the point, is that when we're in the busy course of our day, we don't often have the luxury of going somewhere else. If you're in a heated conversation, a big problem, and you're like, everybody's on the table and you feel everybody's, blood pressure rising, to be able to do a technique in that moment and everybody restart, or better yet, before you sit down to have a conversation about a big problem, is to be like, let's just do this one little thing and we're going to do this. And now everybody's actually in the side to be more collaborative, where their creativity can come out, and then they're not in threat. So especially in challenging situations where, the nature is to start blaming other people because it's threat. So I got to save me on a neurological level. People might not be thinking this, but there is that I have to keep myself safe. And so what do I need to do? Anything I need to do, I'm going to do it.
So can you give me an example? Like what is an example? Like how would you do that?
Oh, as far as techniques?
Yeah, like what is a technique?
Well, it's just, a simple one is just different types of breath work.
Okay.
So one is, there's different ways. People have heard of the box breath, which, right? So it's, breathing in, holding it. So breathing in, hold, and breath out are the same amounts. There are other ways to ground yourself in your body, where you bring your attention into your body. And by doing that, then what you're doing is you're actually, the mind that's out here, you're reconnecting. That's the beauty of this, is the body can reset the mind. And so we've been conditioned to like, this is everything, right? Here's the king or queen, and this is the slave. And you need to go to the bathroom 4 hours ago. Too bad. I'm too busy. Oh, eat, too busy. Water, too busy. Right. And then I can't imagine why I have pounding headaches and I'm grumpy and I'm chewing people's ears off.
So this is, it sounds like this is that sort of Buddhist concept of awareness, right? And I think I just started reading a book last night called Aware, that is written by some doctors that are talking about the practice of becoming aware, and just really being aware of your own self, and really when you do have, when you feel anger, sit there with it and be like, all right, why is this happening? It was really interesting. One of the things I read in the book is they said, so many times we want to avoid sadness. And they were like, sadness is just like a summer storm. Like it comes through, it washes through you, and it's out the other side. But we resist it so much.
Right.
And we do everything. We drink, we do all of these things to avoid it. And they were like, usually when somebody understands that it's okay to experience sadness, and they think about times you've been sad and you have a little bit of a you feel better afterwards.
Yeah.
The natural reaction is to feel better afterwards.
Of course.
The resistance is what the problem is.
Correct.
Suffering comes from the resistance.
Correct.
If you just let it was really interesting. They told one story about this lady, and they said they went to Disney World and she just broke down in crying, like that she had never really experienced that as a kid. And afterwards she's like, wow, that felt amazing. And they were like, that's what sadness is. Like at the end you feel amazing. And she was like, oh, like I've avoided this my whole life. It's like the greatest feeling I've ever experienced. They're like, yeah, you just have to let it go through, not resist it.
Well, and that's actually the interesting thing about emotions is if it's just a single emotion in that moment, right? It's 90 seconds and it's done.
Yeah.
But we don't know that. And the people's fear is if I allow myself to feel mad or if I allow myself to be sad, like there's not going to be an end to it. And it doesn't mean that if you do have had, lots of trauma in your life and people have had serious stuff, it doesn't mean that you don't work with somebody. But to know in and of itself that in this moment, so it goes back to this thing about being aware.
Yeah.
We are awareness. We are consciousness.
Yeah.
Right? So when I say hi, are you in there? If you're in there, wave to me.
Yeah.
Who's waving? Right? Your consciousness is waving. So you have a mind that thinks, you have a heart that feels, and you have a body that moves and feels.
Yeah.
But you're not any one of those things. And so when people understand they're in here, like literally the point of mindfulness and awareness and doing these things is to keep and stay in dominion over yourself, over your mind and over your body. Not in the sense of, king and slave or queen and slave, but the sense of like claim your divinity, claim your ability to say, wait a minute, this is a thought that is running me crazy. So this idea of I'm so stressed out, I have all these things to do. Well, that's just a thought. Who says they're true? Like, the specifics of, you have a task, but is the next 10 thoughts to take you down the rabbit hole, are they true? Right? It's understanding that inertia works both ways. So, and that's where mindset comes in. So they actually all tie together. Awareness, consciousness, awareness. Mindset is the practice of changing your thoughts and deciding that you're going to go here. So, but it's having dominion, right? So when your mind is thinking in a certain way, you get to choose. Like, I have the power to either let any thought in here, like so you stand guard at the door of your mind, as James Allen said, or if it's in there, dismiss it. Put it something else in there. There's nothing that says we can't do that. And then yet people don't. But the people who do are the people who create amazing things and expand all kinds of possibilities because they're not limited by the programming that is in their head or they're being fed every day through media or whatever else is.
So I want to ask you two questions in one question because I want to make sure we get this. When you say inertia works both ways, I want to know what that means. Okay. And then I want to talk a little bit about dominion. So let's start transitioning that. But inertia I've talked about inertia multiple times today on multiple different podcasts.
Okay.
And I have this belief that change, that one of the reasons we're so resistant to change is because we can't get enough inertia because we've dug something in so deep and we've never moved it, and now we want to move it out of the way. And it's like, you put 1,000 layers of mud over top of this thing. It's not going to move as easily. But I'd love to hear what you mean by inertia moves both ways.
Well, so I mean, it's Einstein, right?
Yeah.
And so basically, the inertia is something that stays still unless something moves it of greater, or vice versa, right? Keeps moving until something greater stops it. That is the truth with ourselves in terms of how we think, how we feel, how we act, and then what shows up in the body. So, for example, you start thinking about, I think you start out, okay, I'm going to be really good because I may say you want to be healthier, for example. So you're like, okay, I'm all in. I'm going to eat better today. And so you get into your stuff, and all of a sudden stuff starts happening, and you start getting grumpy, and now you start getting irritated. And then now you're feeling irritated. And now you're like, okay, you know what? Here's those donuts at 10 o'clock. And I could use a little boost. Let me have a donut. I'll do a donut. But I'm going to be really I'm going to just do a salad at lunch. So then you come to lunch, and then just before lunch, you get a call from somebody telling you that something else just hit the fan. And, like in your own life, and you're like, the heck with that. I'm going for the burger and fries. And, so and then, of course, then it shows up in the body as high blood pressure, or it shows up as cardiovascular disease, or cortisol, all those things. So inertia works both ways in that we think about it in the sense of in a downward spiral. Like, so take example with change in business. Okay. So businesses or just let's talk about engagement, for example. So toxic culture, things are bad. And it just keeps getting worse. So more people leave. The people who are left are now grossing even more, right? It just keeps building and building and building. When you make a change, like at the leadership level, right now you have the ability to start to do things differently, or even individuals in their own case. So say let's just say they don't have the power of a CEO. Say they're just a line person. and everything is a mess. And now, here's all the gossip, here's all the stuff going on. They can decide in their own mind that might be true for them. And I'm not, saying that's not a situation. I'm going to focus on this. I'm going to focus on keeping myself focused on what I want to do or what I need to do. And so now this person, right? So now instead of sharing the gossip when they're passing along and they say, no, actually they're doing the best they can, or they say something that actually starts to shift it. And now, well, what do you think about that? Well, actually, I know it's not fixed, but they're doing better. So we can determine which directions those go. And resilience is the neurological way to do it, because when you are showing people how to shift themselves, you are not combating the automatic threat that's happening, because our tendency is a negative bias when we are in survival mode and when we are in chronic stress.
Makes sense.
So pick one thing. Just like if you could pick your diet, you can start walking and then you start doing something different. In business, the same thing. Just pick the one spot. And that's why resilience really is, that's why I call it the linchpin of workforce sustainability.
I love that. Let's talk about dominion in closing here, because you use that word, and I think some people think, isn't that the voting machine company, right? And I think other people think about it from religious culture that has sort of pushed down this idea of dominion. And it's like people have dominion over other people, and we have dominion over animals, and we have dominion over these things. So I think the negative connotations around dominion, even if they were mellowing out, I think some of our election nonsense in the last few years has brought that word back into, well, what does dominion actually mean?
Dominion means the ability to choose for yourself. That's how I look at it. So dominion means I, as my higher self, as my consciousness, I have ultimate say in what runs me. Does my mind run me? Does my body run me? Do my emotions run me? Because I, as consciousness, can say, I can hear that. I hear that chatter. Nope, we're not doing that anymore. Nope, not going there. I know you don't feel like it, and we're going to go for a walk, because we know if we go for a walk, we're going to feel better. So it is the ultimate in mindset. So most people in vernacular today, it's all about mindset, right? And discipline and mindset. And it is discipline. But this is where inertia works the other way. Because you start hitting the toggle switch the other side, and now every day, okay, so at night, I love the who, not how, and the gap and the gain. And when we talk about that, about the night ritual, the last thing you do is you count your successes. What are my 3 gains of the day? And now what do I want them to be for tomorrow? And instead of, spending the last hour of my night watching something that is horrifically challenging to my nervous system, and now I can't sleep and I'm, all disturbed, I am setting myself up for success. So now my nervous system, my brain's thinking about that all night. And now I have more energy to get up in the morning. Now I want to get up in the morning. So it's just, that's dominion, right? It's, I can choose. I can be, every binge TV is like a thing, right? Depending on, especially if you want to just zone out, or which is what most people use it for, numbing. But if you do it intentionally, right? Nothing is bad, right? Coffee's not bad. Things aren't bad if you are mindful in your appreciation of them. If you're doing them as your way to cope through the day, that's where there's an issue.
And I think for me, and being a little bit vulnerable here, I email is probably mine, right? It's like, I love email. I love the communication aspect of it. Every time I look at it, I get I go in a bad place, because it's always the 60 or 70 emails that I haven't got to, that I need to, that are overly important, that I'm just not, I don't feel like I have it in control. And I hear this from other CEOs. I'm like, what's the one thing you could change about business? And they're like, email. Without a doubt, they're like, we have to get rid of it. It has to stop, because it is just this onslaught of people pummeling things at you. That's one of the reasons I'm really down on LinkedIn anymore. I get 6 to 7 people a day that are like, hey, I see we're connected, and or we met at this event, and then they just immediately launch into this sales pitch, and then they're just relentless. And I mean, to the point now, I don't know how. I've got to figure out how they're doing it. But after the 6th or 7th message, they don't hit me up. I don't respond on LinkedIn. Then they start emailing, and then after about a dozen of those, then they start calling and texting me, and I'm like, okay, listen, I ignored you the first 15 times. As you can see, I need to get some resilience because I'm already starting to boil over here. And it's like, and now you're going to freaking call me? Do you really think under any circumstances I would ever do business with you? And it's just become this thing. And I think it's really easy to fall into this trap. At least it is for me, because
right.
I just get so frustrated with it. Right. I just can't deal with it.
Right. Well, and that's a great example, right? So having dominion for yourself is deciding what you do or do not want to do about that. So for me, like I tell people that in terms of, if somebody sends me a thing on LinkedIn and it's just connect or thanks for connecting. That's a big one, right? Thanks for connecting. I don't even know who you are. Thanks for connecting. I don't give it any credence. So it's about keeping yourself neutral. Yeah. So in your processes, right, if you have your admin or somebody, so that role, like you were talking about, right, getting somebody to handle those things is here's the criteria of yes or no, and you're not actually handling that. Or to actually say in your LinkedIn profile, if I don't know you and you're going to pitch me something, I will not answer you. Yeah. And so, that's just one example of that. But finding ways that...
Can I just say no more email? Can I just tell my people that
you did tell
delete
me that.
My email? No, totally just shut it off. Never again.
Yeah.
I don't want to ever see it ever again. Just delete it. And they're like, can I just send him an email? It's like, he doesn't do it. I want to be like Donald Trump in that way. He's like, he doesn't do email. Everybody in the room just went, oh no, right? But like, I can understand why some leaders are like, I will not have an email address. Because it is just it is a barrage 24/7 a day. I mean, you think social media is bad. When you're in a position of leadership and you're a decision maker, email can just beat you down.
Right. Well, and there are choices, right, to make. So what other choices that you would rather do? That's the beauty of it. This is dominion, right?
Yeah,
the biggest thing is not for me. I have always been the emperor has no clothes. Like, I don't care what people think. I don't follow trends. If it doesn't resonate for me, it doesn't resonate and I don't do it. So in those kinds of situations, then what is a better answer for you? And then this is the thing with social media. There's the pressure to be on everything, to like everything, to have everybody like you, to all that stuff. That is where we're not in dominion of ourselves if we are being run by that.
I like that.
So you get to choose. Like, this is your life. This is your business. These are our criteria. Yeah. You said it in other ways.
Yeah, I do feel like that when it comes to things like communication, you don't feel like you have a choice because you're just drinking from the fire hose. So I love that because I have to definitely get control of that in my own life because it is something that I complain about all the time to my team is I'm like, how in the world am I supposed to dig out of 400 emails in a week? It's like, it's just not possible to ever get any work done.
Right. And that's really important because that is guarding your time and that is dominion.
Yeah.
Right. Especially as a leader, that's one of the most important
dominion
things.
over your time. I love that. All right, listen. Thank you so much for being here. I know we got a couple of different interviews with you today, but I wanted to spend a little bit of time and thanks for that because I think about dominion differently, but I think about taking dominion over my own time is what is the most important thing for me right now.
Think of it as self-empowerment.
Yeah.
Like, let's have a new connotation for that. It is self-empowerment. It's self-discipline. It's what I would say, a self-determined. Yeah. It's being self-determined. What do you want in your life and what do you not? And especially when that's the beauty of being self-employed, right? Having your own company is you decide what the criteria is and do something that makes sense. Because the first time we met, you did say, I don't do email. You told me that. I don't do email. I was like, I hate it. Cool enough. I get it.
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah. Well, because people I do want to talk to, if you send me an email, you're never going to get me.
Right.
Because it's just the last thing I'm going to do. Right.
Well, and that's why it's important to understand that about people. This is to be another thing of relationship, right? Like, what's the first question you ask somebody? How do you like to communicate?
It's really good.
Yeah.
Thanks for being here.
My pleasure.
All right.
It was great fun.
Yes. All right. Well, thanks for joining. That's a wrap on Kathleen Gramsci. We'll see you next week here on the show.
You ready? Let's go. Welcome to the process fixer. Help you see the bigger picture. Derek Maines is the elixir. Cutting waste away like scissor. Woo! Got a problem, he can solve it. He's an expert with the process, so for sure you'll see a profit. Bottom line profit. Analyze the work your people doing every day. Expose the inefficiencies getting in the way. Advise advise you how to automate, outsource, abbreviate, eliminate, innovate. Now there's more food up on your dinner plate.